Hello everybody, my name is Rainer and this is Rainier Book. Today is Sunday, December the 18th. Christmas is approaching in quick steps, and today I want to give you a little overview about the things that I'm currently reading, and let's get started. I'm sort of in a reading slum, I thought, this week, but then I realized actually that I haven't finished one book recently in the last 2 weeks, but then I realized, Rainer, you are reading too many books at the same time. And sometimes it happens like that. It just happens like that. Because today, as I sit here, as I speak here, I'm reading no less than 7 books. And of course, it takes a long time to finish one of them, because I just try to treat them in a just way, that I'm reading one chapter here, one chapter there, a couple of pages here, a couple of pages there. So it takes a lot of time, but I want to tell you about the 7 books that I read, because they were not on my TBR for the end of the year. Some of them were not on the TBR at the end of the year. They just happened to slink in to my view, slink into my interest, and, well, I'm reading them now. One of them is Simone Buchholz, Revolverherz, another novel in German, but there is an English translation to the books of Simone Buchholz, and I really want to recommend her to you, to your reading. She is a thriller author from Germany. She is, I think, born in the 1970s, around 47, 48 years old, and she is living in Hamburg, and also her books are playing out in Hamburg. She has written a long series already of books with the district attorney Chastity Riley, very German name, Chastity Riley, Chas, as she is called by her friends. She is her father is American, her mother is German. And I'm reading the first one called Revolverherz. The title of the English translation is here. I don't think it's Revolverheart or Cold Heart or whatever. This first book already shows me that Simone Buchholz has a unique voice in writing thrillers. I haven't read anything like this before, I have to say that. Which reminds me a little bit, the name Modesty Blaise came up when I read this figure that Peter O'Donnell, I think, created so many years ago, which was also a comic, but also a novel, I believe. I have to do a little more research about Modesty Blaise, because Chastity Riley, modesty and chastity seem to be related to each other in a way. Because Chastity is also like a comic figure almost. She's a crazy woman. She's a hell of a woman. She's drinking a lot of alcohol. She vomits when she sees bodies in a very bad situation, which is her daily life, as a district attorney who is working with murder. And there's a serial killer apparently on its way here, on her or his way in Hamburg, a serial killer who has killed already 2 women and who has cut off the scalp of them and replaced it with a wig, with an ugly wig in blue. So it's crazy. The life of Chastity Riley, it's not a typical life of a district attorney, and she doesn't think the way a normal or expected district attorney would think. She's very, very interesting character in Revolverherz by Simone Buchholz. It's one of the 7 books that I'm currently reading. And then a book that I have put away for a long time ago. I've talked about it on this channel. I wanted to read it, but now I started actually reading the first story of it. It's a story about Cambodian immigrants in the United States, I think in Los Angeles more or less. And this book is called Afterparties, and the first story is called 3 Women of Chuck's Donuts. And I'm talking about Anthony Yeasna who debuted with this collection of short stories, I think 2 years ago. And this book was published already after his demise. He didn't get very old, unfortunately. Anthony, he lived only 28 years. He was a graduate of Stanford University and earned his MFA in fiction at Syracuse University, which I believe is in New York State. and his writing appeared here and there, and he was a huge talent, and he is already not with us anymore. Anthony Yeasna, and Afterparties, a collection of stories by him. But then I'm always sort of distracted by the things that happen in the world, and a book that I talked about already before, and I think in the non-fiction video that I did, is The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace Wells, where he tells us a story about the future, a story about how our planet will look like when we don't lower the emission of carbon in the atmosphere. It's a horror vision, it is a necessary vision, because many cities like Los Angeles, the Los Angeles of Afterparties by Anthony Yeasna will truly disappear if the temperature is rising by 3 or more degrees Celsius in the next decades to come. David Wallace Wells, a very important reminding book. One that I DNF'd actually, so I'm not reading 7 books, I read 6 books, because I couldn't sort of get along with the style of writing, because it starts with a 40 pages dialogue between 2 people, and dialogue is always between 2 people, that's right. Cormac, McCarthy and The Passenger, his new book, didn't really resonate with me, and that's why I put it away, because I have only a limited time in my life to read books and to live as well, so I put it away. The Sportswriter by Richard Ford was written in 1986. It's the beginning of the Frank Bascombe trilogy that Ford has written, which ultimately gave him the Pulitzer Prize for his novel Independence Day. I think that's the second one, but The Sportswriter is the first one in the life of Frank Bascombe, a 38-year-old sports writer who's living in, I think, New Jersey in the beginning of the novel, and he has written a book of short stories that was very successful, that also got him a movie contract, that paid him a lot of money. He could buy a house where he is still living now alone. He was married, had 3 children. His wife divorced him, they divorced each other, and they lost a son who died at the age of 11 or 12. And this book starts with a ritual that Frank and his ex-wife have established, that they meet on the birthday of their son at the cemetery, at the grave of their son. And both of them have huge problems to express their mourning and to live with the death of a child, and obviously this is must be a huge problem for each and everyone who has to go through something like that. That's a horror story for every parent. Another book that I'm reading, it's in German because it's not yet translated into English, is, I talked about this also before on this channel, Die geheimste Erinnerung, der Menschen by Mohamed Mbougar Sarr, the winner of the Prix Goncourt in France in 2021. It's already translated, it's fresh translated into the German language by amazing translators. I have to name them. 2 people, Holger Fock and Sabine Müller, have translated this from the French. It's a story about a young Senegalese writer in Paris who has heard about the legend of Elimane, who was a Senegalese writer who apparently made a huge impact in the 1930s, who wrote a grandiose book called The Most Secret Memory of Humankind. And this book has disappeared from the market, and Elimane has disappeared as well. Nobody knows what happened to this young author in the 1930s, and this young author in the book here is trying to find out about Elimane, who was called the Black Rambo. And the last one is an enormous work. It's really heavy here. I think it's about 1.7, 1.8, 2 kilos maybe. This is, and I received it actually in a package that I had to pick up at another place here in Farsta. I couldn't pick it up at my usual place because it was too heavy and was too big. This is an encyclopedia almost, a non-fiction book that I also talked about. Carolyn Elkins' Legacy of Violence, a history of the British Empire. Carolyn Elkins Caroline Elkins is a professor of history at the Harvard University in the United States, one of the most famous universities in the world, apparently and obviously. And she has worked on the British Empire before by revealing the history of how Britain slaughtered more than 1 million people in Kenya and built the concentration camps there. And this one is about the British Empire in general. It's 896 pages. And will take me a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months, but it's very readable, easy accessible. And I think the story of the British colonialism is essential to the understanding of the history of the United States, of Canada, of other countries as well, and of other colonial powers as well, and of the impact that colonial powers had on people everywhere around the world where people were underthrown under the power of colonies. And this, Elkins says already in the beginning that Britain was the role model for many other countries to sort of establish their colonies and exploit the colonies as much as it is possible. These are the books that I am reading. So I hope to finish 1 or 2 or 3 of them until the end of the year. I'm preparing my top 10 fiction list for this year, of course I do. And this will come a little later. I'm sorry. But I'm preparing a little other stuff as well, and there might be another video today, so stay tuned to the channel, and I see you soon. Bye!